waiting on Alabama getting a huge quarterback commitment. They were after a couple of big fish. They landed one of them. Let's talk about it on Locked On Bama.
Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me. Jimmy Stein, that's him. Jimmy, how are you today?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is a big one for recruiting nerds like myself.
And myself. Also nerd of recruiting, I am. Just like I'm doing this with Yoda. And for some reason, I'm still getting calls in here. If Brandon didn't get to the office, I know. That's an oldie but a goodie.
Yeah, that does go to.
All right. So in an effort to make sure my phone has quit ringing, that's probably somebody else telling me what a wonderful job Alabama did recruiting. But for now, Eli Holstein out of Zachary, Louisiana, has committed to the University of Alabama. Mm-hmm. Jimmy, this is monstrous. This is big. This is huge. I'll let you tell everybody why.
Well, Holstein is a fantastic prospect. We're talking about this is one thing I'm actually going to research this afternoon before I write my official piece for On 3 about it. I mean, I have a lot of comments on the board and, of course, here on the show. But I'm going to research this because I'm pretty sure it's true. I think throughout the Saban era, where we've signed one great QB prospect after another, even a lot of the quarterback prospects that didn't pan out, that doesn't mean they weren't really good prospects that were rated really highly by the services for all sorts of good reasons. But I think Holstein is probably the biggest, most athletic, with the most arm talent of any of them. If you follow me, in other words, how many quarterbacks have we signed bigger than him? Very few, if any. How many quarterbacks have we signed more athletic than him? Very few than any. How many quarterbacks have we signed that had superior arm talent to Holstein? Very few. But my point is, if we did like a kind of a point system, like, the biggest and most athletic, and then did it by arm talent, if you did it by point system, Eli Holstein is the best combo of those traits that we've signed at Alabama at quarterback under Nick Saban. And of course, under Saban, we've done our best recruiting of all time. So Holstein's got unlimited upside, and my comp for him, there really isn't an Alabama comp for him. There's really not. Maybe Namath, and I'm not kidding. I mean, and I say that in terms of size, athleticism, arm talent. This is Joe Namath. I think the best comp for him is probably Josh Allen. And I know what that's saying and how unfair that is to Eli and Josh. But how unfair that is. But that's where you have to go to. I mean, my comps are based on size and athleticism and skill set. And what comes to mind is Josh Allen. Because Eli has Zach. I call him Zach all the time because he's from Zachary, Louisiana. Eli has that size. He's got that level of athleticism. He may one day have the exact same arm strength as even Josh Allen. Now he'll have some challenges. He's not a 6-star. As a matter of fact, even my own network doesn't even rate him a 5-star at this time. But I think one thing I feel really certain about, Luke, Eli Holstein will be a 5-star across the board once the Elite 11 process is concluded. I think he's even in an Elite 11 group, Luke, that's one of the all-time best. I think this Elite 11 that's going out to California is one of the best ever in the history of the competition in terms of this is a great, great group of future NFL studs. Holstein's going to dominate that group, even this group. He'll physically dominate them. That's how good this guy is. I'm super excited.
Want to keep talking about him after I take this first break to tell you about Rock Auto. RockAuto.com is where you want to go. It's a family-owned business. It's got all the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto. It's right there in the song to tell you about how many parts they have. They've got all of them. With ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain store to stock all the parts you need. Why endure the often pointless or seemingly intimidating questions like, is your Honda Odyssey an LX or an EX? You don't know. Nobody knows. You have to go out there and check on the back of your car and say, I don't, my L's missing. It's just an X. I don't know. And wait while the person behind the counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand their warehouse happens to carry. You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket in the form of your iPhones and or Androids. Go explore their easy-to-use website today to find the solution to your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How'd You Hear About Us box so you know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. Rock Auto. All right, Jimmy, an added bonus to this, of course, Eli Holstein decommitted from Texas A&M a few months ago. Alabama's been the perceived leader since then. And, I pulled up a couple of quick pictures for those who have never seen him, or, maybe some people that listen to this don't go to a lot of recruiting websites. Just take a look at this picture. I mean, that's a big dude. As Jimmy, thank God I put this picture up. Jimmy dropped his phone.
I couldn't believe it.
Couldn't believe how big it was. It scared you.
Well, the funny thing is that helmet, the first thing that stood out to me, here I am almost embarrassed that I'm comparing him to Josh Allen, and there he is wearing what looks like a Buffalo Bills helmet.
But look at I really dig the form. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that I'm the quarterback whisperer, but if you were going to say, hey, make a statue of a quarterback about to make a pass, it looked like what we see right here with Eli Holstein. And then here's another picture of the dude. Now, this picture doesn't stretch all the way to the end for some reason, but you can see, I mean, he's big. He's filled out. I mean, he's a dude, man. He's a big cat, and he shattered a bunch of records at the Elite 11. All these various drills. Take that the way you want to. I mean, maybe some of those drills don't mean a whole lot, but they are used in analytics for a reason.
Right.
And I would rather have a guy shatter records in a good way than not be able to complete the drill. And people go, well, these drills don't mean anything. They mean something. I mean, they've been taking them for a while. So I feel like this cat is.
It means something to professional quarterback coaches.
Yeah.
Maybe more than those guys, but they all mean something. I agree that ultimately anyone can argue, even the professionals can argue about how much it means, but they wouldn't do it. It's like the NFL Combine. Some fans actually think the NFL Combines are a waste of time and money. The NFL doesn't waste their time and money, especially their money, on nothing. There is a tremendous amount of value that NFL scouting and front offices get out of what goes on in Indianapolis, whether you like it or not. They wouldn't spend literally millions of their dollars on it if it wasn't a big deal. So it is a big deal. The fact that Holstein is literally, you can say this, he is the most incredible athletic specimen in Elite 11 history. If you care about things like his size, his frame, his strength, his length, his 40 time, his shuttle time, when you add all that up, no quarterback in Elite 11 history, in the regionals, not the finals, the regionals, all the hundreds of quarterbacks that have participated in Elite 11 regionals over the years, he's got the highest score ever. And if you don't think that means something, that's crazy. But does that mean he's going to be the starting quarterback at 3 years and win 2 Heismans and be the first pick in the draft? No, it doesn't mean that. It just means that when Eli Holstein calls to commit, the answer is yes, we will take that commitment. Thank you, sir.
May we have another. And I think, Jimmy, let's go ahead and talk about Bet Online here, because I want to see how this factors in to Alabama's class, what it means for Arch Manning, which I think we all know what this probably means. But for now, I want to tell everybody about our partners at Bet Online. They continue to be the #1 source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest odds, news, and sports developments, including this year's basketball playoffs, Major League Baseball scores, fights, and even next year's NFL futures. Bet Online is a continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. Bet Online, that's where the game starts. I ain't got to tell you anymore. Bet Online is where the game starts. Go check it out. All right. So, Jimmy, You never say never in today's world. I never thought gas prices would be about $5 a gallon around the state of Alabama. They're not there yet, but they're at 4.20 something, which is kind of bananas. So I guess it's crazy to say, hey, we're out of the Arch Manning sweepstakes. I'm going to go ahead and say we're out of the Arch Manning sweepstakes. And I'm okay with this. I think this is okay. I am not saying I think Eli is necessarily better than Arch. By the same token, I'm not saying Arch is necessarily better than Eli. They both have their pluses and very few minuses. And if you told me Alabama was going to get one of these two guys, 3 months ago, I'd be ecstatic. So I'm ecstatic, and best of luck to Mr. Arch Manning, wherever you may go. I just kind of hope it's not Georgia.
These are the words I'll use based on what little I know to describe where Alabama is with Arch at this point. I'm using his words carefully because I picked them out carefully. If you ask me, does this mean it's the end for Arch in Alabama? I'm going to use the words almost certainly, but not definitely. And by that, I mean, I think there would be some level of chance that Arch down the road before December decides that Alabama is the smartest choice for him. And then he wants to commit to Alabama. I think there is a chance of that happening. And it's more than the hilarious 1 in a million chance on Dumb and Dumber. No, I mean, it's a real chance. But again, Alabama's recruitment of Arch is almost certainly over, but not definitely.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, you always plan for the worst, especially this staff, even though you are very confident in yourself. You never know. I mean, what if Eli Holstein, what if one of his feet falls off in some kind of diabetic accident?
Hey, your pet's heads could fall off, then your foot could fall off for sure.
So what if something happens?
It's 2 Dumb and Dumber references in 35 seconds. That's a locked on Bama record. That's
a record. But I'm sure Texas A&M felt like they had their quarterback locked in when Eli Holstein was committed
to
them.
Reminds me, not a rant, but that's a great point. And I want to make this point real quick too, because I'm only talking to a handful of people, but I talk with Alabama fans every day about Alabama, and so I'm only talking to very few people here when I say there's this handful of Alabama fans that believe because of NIL that Alabama's recruiting dominance is over, that Alabama, quote, cannot compete with Texas and Texas A&M for players because they have endless oil money and all these other reasons Alabama fans come up with as to why our recruiting dominance, the days of recruiting great are over. I have heard that repeatedly every day from multiple people for days, if not weeks, because of what's going on with NIL and Saban versus Jimbo Fisher. Well, let me just tell you, quarterback is the most high-profile NIL position there is. Nobody makes more money than quarterbacks in the NIL system. This kid flipped from Texas A&M to Alabama, okay? If A&M just buys who they want and they get who they want and Alabama can't compete, then why the hell did this kid – and I assure you, this ain't a Manning. The Holsteins are fine, but this kid didn't come from oil money or I've got multiple uncles in the NFL Hall of Fame money. This kid is just a kid from Zachary, Louisiana. And he said no to Texas A&M, and he said yes to Alabama. So let's just flush this idea. Use other words than Alabama can't compete with Texas A&M. That's outrageously wrong. Now, is it a different situation in 2022 than it was in 2016? Oh, hell yes. It's more difficult for Alabama, but can't compete. That was dumb yesterday, and Eli Holstein proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that that's just the wrong words to use. It's not true.
And I'll tell you this too. If Eli Holstein came out today and said, I have just been thinking about it, and I've just decided Texas A&M is the place for me, they would welcome him with open arms, which is interesting because what it tells you is Alabama essentially went head-to-head with A&M, even in this time, even in these various accusations and head-to-head coaching-wise, and the back and forth, and Alabama won out. And it should be noted that our old boy Pete did a great job recruiting this young man. Jim Watts went out of his way to praise Pete Golding for his recruitment of Eli Holstein, and he's doing a great job there in Louisiana. It
He
looks like
recruited
Alabama's-
Holstein and Arch.
Yeah.
Pete recruited Holstein and Arch. And hey, one last thing, and of course we'll be talking about this for weeks, which is great because it's the best thing to talk about. But anybody out there that thinks Alabama took Holstein because they were, quote, out of it with Arch, you're wrong. You're just absolutely wrong. I don't know who you talk to, but whoever you're talking to doesn't know. It's not true. Alabama was in it for Arch. Was Alabama leading? No. Does that matter at this point when he could be months away from a decision? No. Alabama was in it for Arch. Taking Holstein had 100% to do with Eli Holstein. It did not have much to do with Arch. And by that, I just mean we were never going to say no to Eli Holstein if he wanted to play football here. No one would say no. Probably not Georgia or Texas, to be honest, if they were put in that position. You just don't say no to Holstein. Now, does this mean Holstein's a better prospect than Arch? Well, I don't think so. I would, between the two of them, if I have my choice of the two, I would take Arch, but I wouldn't disagree with somebody that went the other way. If I heard, for instance, on Alabama staff, 10 coaches, well, 11 with Nick, let's say 7 of them wanted Arch and 4 of them wanted Holstein, wouldn't surprise me in the least. I mean, I think it's close. And it might have been 7-4 the other way, honestly.
And Jimmy,
could have been.
How much of those 7 or how much of your decision takes into consideration just the name Manning, just the aura of that? Right. I'm going to tell you, I think people think that's real. I mean, if you look, it's like we were talking about Bronny James the other night. If somebody says, hey, Bronny James wants to commit to Alabama to play basketball, and you didn't know anything about Bronny James basketball game, you'd go, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I'll give you another example. Remember all the hype Shea Cotton had from when he was like a 6th grader in California. Remember when he came to Alabama? He hadn't done anything. I think he went to USC, hadn't done anything. He ended up wayward way he comes to Alabama, and everybody's like, oh, now we're about to be something. But it was his name and his hype versus what he actually was. And I think that I'm not saying Arch is Shea Cotton. Please don't get me wrong. Arch is a real deal. But my point is, if Arch Manning was named Arch Robinson, people would be like, oh, okay. Eli Holstein's might be better. Yeah, I mean, I think you would look at the tape and feel different about it.
No, I agree with this notion for sure. If Arch had a different name and what related to the Mannings, I'd be interested to see where he was rated. I would agree that he wouldn't be the universal number 1 like he is now on all the services. I would agree with that notion. But I'll say this for any sort of Arch, I don't know if basher is the right term. I don't think there really are Arch bashers because, what's to bash? But Arch Manning has 2 uncles and a grandfather that were not only NFL quarterbacks, they were fantastic NFL quarterbacks. So he's got 3 that are direct relatives. And then throw in the fact, much bigger than Archie, much more athletic than Eli and Peyton, bigger, stronger than Eli Peyton at the same stage. He's a bigger, stronger kid than both at the same stage. Trained better and longer than Eli Peyton or Archie. Driven, unique kid. Then throw in the fact he's basically been coached by the same people at Newman Isidore. And I know this is common with recency effect, but the people at Newman Isidore said, I saw Peyton Manning play high school football. I saw Eli Manning play high school football. Arch is better. So if Arch has the same DNA, but is physically superior, and then has the numbers to back it up, because Arch broke all the records. He's the all-time leading passer at Isidore Newman already with the whole season to go, beating both of his uncle's records. It's hard to say that Arch is who he is because of his name when you factor all that in.
Well, not only that, you have to factor in that Arch has been the benefactor of being able to learn from those 2 uncles and their grandfather like that. That does count for something. It works both ways. Arch is, because of his, I hate to use the term privilege because now that has such a negative connotation to it, but because he has been privileged to be related to that greatness, he has this, he has not only been able to learn it in a tangible sense, but he has this intangibility about him where it's, greatness is just sort of sprinkled upon him without him even knowing it. Meanwhile, you could say the same thing about Eli Holstein. This is a guy that didn't come from all the money, fame. He's had to build his name up from scratch. There are positives to both sides. And again, I will say this for the 1,000th time, both of them have very few negatives, if any negatives. So
now,
I'm fired up.
I think with Holstein, if there's a negative, and it's not a negative, but I compared him to Josh. And this is a fact about Josh that's so true. And by the way, I think the world of him. I think Josh Allen is the best or second best quarterback that's alive in the world today. It's him or Mahomes. They're 1 and 2 in some order. When Josh Allen, of course, he went to Wyoming because he didn't have any other Division I offers. So that means Zachary, Louisiana's Eli Holstein is ahead of where Josh Allen was at this same age. Secondly, when Josh Allen came out of Wyoming, a lot of NFL teams didn't think much of his arm talent in terms of accuracy. No one doubted his arm strength, but his arm talent, his accuracy. And I remember some people saying, and it's true among quarterback instructors because I've heard it myself, accuracy is the one thing that is either hard to fix or it can't be fixed. Well, somehow, some way, Josh Allen became, while in the NFL, a more accurate quarterback after his rookie season. He improved that somehow, some way. I think that's always going to be the fight with Eli. He has such a powerful arm. Hey, Luke, I mean, to me, it's this simple. Look at like a baseball pitcher. Let's say if as hard as you can throw it is 82, and then the second kid, he can throw it 99. I can assure you without knowing any more than that kid that throws 82 probably throws strikes. He gets people out because he puts the ball where he wants. The kid that's 99, he's going to get people out because they can't catch up with the fastball, but he's also all over the place. Well, Eli throws it 99, right? I mean, he's got a big arm. He's got to learn to control it and become we say at QB country all the time. One of the things we say all the time is become a passer. Don't be a thrower. That's the thing. Eli's got to become a passer and not just be a thrower. That's going to take some time. I don't think Eli's going to step off the bus and be the best quarterback in the SEC, but he could grow to be that over time.
All right, buddy. It is kind of interesting that Arch is going head-to-head with a guy named Eli. That is interesting. Yeah. It's also interesting Alabama and Texas, if that's where he ends up, could play each other next year or will play each other next year. And if he goes to Georgia, Alabama and Georgia could play each other next year in some capacity. So who knows? But for now, we will talk about this all week long. So y'all stay tuned into us. I'm going to try and get Jordan Garcia on to talk about him. We're going to have a lot of fun with this. Eli Holstein commits to the University of Alabama. So we will talk again soon. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.